Hello and welcome to Medyascope. Today we will be talking about the developments in East Med regarding the energy orientation. Joining us from London is Mr. Charles Ellinas. Mr. Ellinas, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Nice to be talking to you.
Thank you. There are quite a lot of topics I want to discuss with you, but perhaps first we can talk about the electricity agreement, which Egypt, Cyprus, and Greece is moving ahead with. Can you give us the details? What's happening on that front?
Well, as you know, the European Union has been promoting interconnections, electricity interconnections among the states of Europe, and that includes Cyprus. So the first project that was put on the table and was accepted by the European Union, the project of common interest, was the interconnection between Israel, Cyprus, and Europe. And the one you referred to is the more recent one, the agreement between Egypt, Cyprus, and Greece to interconnect the electricity grids. These are projects supported by the European Union, but obviously there is a long way between support from the European Union and materializing into projects. The European Union will support the feasibility studies and is supporting, for example, the feasibility study for the Israel to Cyprus to Greece interconnector. Beyond that, once the feasibility studies are completed, investments need to be found. It's possible, but there is some way to go yet.
Is it economically feasible?
I personally believe it's going to be economically challenging, but it's not unthinkable. It depends, really depends on what support the European Union provides. And for example, in a recent interconnector project between Spain and France, the European Union contributed over 500 million euros to make it feasible. So it all depends really on what the European Union does to promote interconnections.
Regarding the gas explorations within the region, there are a lot of cooperations and there are a lot of conflicts that are ongoing. I want to ask you, the discussions and debates that we're having at the moment, they are really political based and they are revolving around the political risk. But there are economic risks as well, and the market is not very favorable at the moment. How do you see the issue? How would you draw the general picture for us when we compare the market risk and the political risk?
Well, let's start with the global market. The global market is becoming very challenging, and it's not challenging for the moment, it's challenging forever. The increase in renewables, the increase in energy efficiency, the reduction in the use of energy, all of these things mean that the world has a lot of energy, abundant supplies of energy, and as a result, prices will stay low forever. That means a strong competition among the various fuels. So, for example, gas, which is of interest to us, it has a good future, but a future which is very competitive. So I see gas prices staying low forever. And provided the East Med can develop and export gas within these prices, it will succeed. If it doesn't, it will be difficult.
One of the issues in the East Med gas and the transferring of the East Med gas is ongoing in terms of the Israeli gas. And the question is how the Israeli gas can be transferred to the European markets or other markets. There have been several options on the table. What's the general picture right now?
Well, let's take all aspects of the Israeli gas. I mean, the good news for Israel is that last month, the Jordanian government approved the export of gas from Israel to Jordan, which makes the development of the Leviathan Phase 1 very strong. So on that basis, Leviathan is now proceeding to develop phase one for exports to Jordan and then to the domestic market. Beyond that, you probably referred to the agreement between Noble and Delek in Israel to export gas to Egypt to a private company, with a private company called Dolphinus. That agreement involves potentially the export of 64 billion cubic meters of gas over 10 years. But that agreement, that potential export faces a lot of challenges before it becomes real. It may happen. There is a strong political support for the project, both from the Prime Minister of Israel and the President of Egypt. They want it to succeed. And Egypt wants the project to succeed so that it can contribute to Egypt becoming a trading hub for the region. But I will outline to you the challenges. The first one is, how do you get the gas from Israel to Egypt? That hasn't been defined yet. There are some choices, pipelines. One pipeline is the one that was called EMG, that was used to export Egyptian gas to Egypt, and which stopped supplying gas in 2012. But all of the pipeline options they have to go through Sinai. And as you know, Sinai is not a secure region. So these pipelines going through Sinai run security risks. In addition to that, this interruption of gas supplies from Egypt to Israel that happened in 2012 resulted in arbitration, and Egypt lost. As a result of which, Egypt has been requested by the courts to pay Israel close to $2 billion. Egypt does not agree with that. So they say that any exports from Israel to Egypt will happen once this problem is resolved. It hasn't been resolved yet. It possibly will be resolved, though, because if there is will between the two governments to go ahead with these exports, then it might be possible to find a way around the arbitration issue, especially since the gas deal could be worth as much as $15 billion. Another challenge is commercial. The sale of Israeli gas to Egypt is at about $6 to $6.5 per million BTU. And the Egyptian industrial companies buy gas from EGAS at about $7. So the prices are too close, and within that small difference, you have to pay a lot of costs, like transmission within Egypt, management of the project, profits, and so on. So there are challenges to overcome. They are not insurmountable. Nevertheless, there are challenges, but there is time to resolve them, because the supply will not happen until 2020, when Leviathan is up and running. Now, the other options that Israel is looking at is another one has been announced just now, as you probably heard, that Shell may be proposing to buy both Israeli gas from Leviathan and Cypriot gas from Aphrodite, to take it to Itku, the liquefaction plant in Egypt, liquefy it and export it to Europe. So that's another potential project. Again, it's challenging commercially, but it is not insurmountable. It's possible that it may happen. That is at an early stage. We're waiting to hear more about it before we understand what is involved. A third option is to export gas to Europe through what is known as the East Med gas pipeline. For me, that is a pipe dream, not a pipeline, because it's a very expensive undertaking. By the time the gas reaches Europe, it will be difficult to sell because it will be too expensive, unless the European Union again subsidizes the project to the tune of a few $1 billion, which I think is highly unlikely. So for me, that pipeline is very, very challenging. And the last one is the discussions that started last year to export gas to Turkey and from there to Europe. with the problems being that it has to pass through Cyprus EZ, which is a bit of a problem. But I believe there are also commercial challenges against this project. First of all, by the time the gas comes to Turkey, it will be too expensive to compete with Russian gas. And the same applies with the gas that arrives in Europe. If the Turkish route is followed for Israeli gas, by the time the gas arrives in Europe, it will be too expensive to compete. So I think that project is very challenging too. So at the moment, the best options for Israel is to export this gas to Egypt for the domestic use through this contract with Delphinus, if they manage to overcome all the obstacles. And the latest one, to sell some of the gas from Leviathan to Shell for liquefaction at Itku and export to the world, not just Europe, but also possibly Asia.
Mr. Ellinas, quite recently, ENI announced that there was a gas discovery in Cyprus. Does this discovery have an implication for the transferring of the Israeli gas as well?
Well, I mean, first of all, the offer by Shell has already been not announced, but it is already in progress. So Shell is proposing to buy 10 billion cubic meters from Cyprus, from Aphrodite and Leviathan. That is going to go, it's a separate project. Now, you are referring to the discovery of Calypso in Block 6 of Cyprus,
yes,
with about 6 to 8 trillion cubic feet of gas. That is still some way to go before they decide which way it will be exploited. First of all, ENI has to carry out further drilling to confirm the quantities and then decide on the options for export. ENI suggested that they might connect that gas field to Zohr and take the gas from there to Egypt. But it's still too early to say which way it's going to go.
Regarding the Shell agreement you referred to just now, I've been hearing that there was opposition from the Israeli side to the buying of the Cyprus gas. Can you comment on that? Did you hear such a...
Yes, I can. You're referring to the possibility that the Aphrodite gas field extends into the Israeli EZ in a small way.
Yes.
So there is a group called the Ishai Group that is claiming that about 6 to 8% of Aphrodite gas belongs to them because it's in their block on the Israeli side. On the Cyprus side, Nobel says that is not correct and it's a lot less. Negotiations have been going on for a few years now to agree what is called a unitization agreement, which will decide how the problems like this can be resolved. They haven't reached a conclusion yet, but with this possibility that sales to Shell may happen, I believe they will find a solution because the differences are not massive. The numbers are very small. And I see that negotiations will restart and they will find a way to resolve the problems. It's not a showstopper. It's just a headache to be resolved.
It's not a significant problem for the moment.
No, I don't see it as a significant problem, no.
Okay. Meanwhile, in the Israeli front, there has been some tension between Lebanon and Israel. It seems to have cooled down. What's happening there?
Well, as you know, Lebanon has gone for a licensing round. They awarded 2 blocks, blocks 4 and 9, to a consortium of Total, ENI, and Novatek from Russia. Block 9 is bordering Israel, and unfortunately, there is a strip between Israel, the Israeli EZ, and the Lebanese EZ, which is being disputed. It's an area of about 850 square kilometers. And part of 9 involves that area. And as a result, when the awards of licenses were made, the Israeli Defense Minister Lieberman started threatening action if Lebanon carries out any exploration in areas disputed. And obviously from the Israel, from the Lebanese side, they responded. However, first of all, the Lebanese Prime Minister, Hariri, said that he's going to refer the case to international bodies to get assistance to resolve it. But at the same time, though, Total, who is the operator of this consortium, announced that they will start drilling in Block 4 first, which is far away from that area, it's not been disputed, in 2019, and move into Block 9 much later. And the target they identified to drill is about 25 kilometers away from the border, which is outside the area being disputed by Israel. So even though there is a dispute, it can only flare up if there is any drilling or exploration in the disputed area. At the moment, the companies who own the licenses say they don't intend to go and explore in that area.
Okay. Meanwhile, most of the cooperations I see is revolving around Egypt. What's happening with Egypt? Is Egypt, for example, becoming an energy hub for the region?
I believe so. Egypt has, of all of the countries of the region, Egypt has been saying little but doing a lot. They're very successful in the sense of a huge gas discoveries. There are more gas being discovered, more gas being produced, to the extent that by the end of this year, Egypt is going to become self-sufficient in gas. They are not going to need to import LNG anymore, and they will start exporting gas from next year. At the same time, last year, at about August, they voted a new gas law, which liberalizes the gas market within Egypt. It allows private companies to buy and trade gas. And they got financial support from IMF, the International Monetary Fund, about $12 billion. And IMF is helping Egypt implement all these changes, all these laws, the reduction of subsidies, and the idea of developing a gas hub. The gas hub is part of this gas law that Egypt prepared. And it looks very likely that Egypt is well placed now to develop a gas trading hub by attracting gas from Israel, possibly Cyprus. They're also attracting oil products from the Gulf to go through Egypt. So there is a lot of activity in Egypt, which is around about trading with oil and gas and acting as a trading post between the Middle East and Europe, but also because of the Suez Canal and the LNG and other products passing through Suez, it facilitates Egypt becoming a gas trading hub. At the same time, the European Union, in their own long-term plans, identified the need for a trading hub in the East Med, and it looks as if Egypt is providing an opportunity to become the gas trading hub of the East Med.
Is the increasing role of Egypt having reflections on Turkey's position?
I don't think so. I think you have to look at it in a different way. I mean, Turkey is the conduit of a lot of gas into Europe from Russia, from Azerbaijan, from Iran, possibly more from other areas. And that means that Turkey is still a central location for the trading of gas from that area, from north and east. And that will continue. These quantities are vast quantities of gas. So Turkey is well placed, provided Turkey liberalizes its own gas trading. At the moment, it's not liberalized. Most of the gas trading in Turkey is being done by Potash. If that is liberalized and they develop a gas trading hub, that can coexist. It doesn't compete with Egypt. I know that it has been often said that East Med gas can only go to Europe through Turkey, but that is not necessarily correct. It's not a political decision, it's a commercial decision. And the companies that discover gas and buy and sell gas, they will go for the cheapest option. If the route through Turkey is cheap and the politics of the region allow it, it can materialize. I don't think so, though. I don't believe it's the cheapest route. And others who dispute it can do studies to show. So I see Egypt becoming a gas hub for the East Med to export gas from the region to the Europe as LNG, but not only to Europe, but also to Asia, where that's where the biggest markets and higher prices are. Turkey is not exporting LNG. Turkey is a conduit of gas through pipelines, and that will continue to be the case, and Turkey will continue to be an important trading, an important region for trading gas into Europe from the north and the east. So I see these two coexisting in parallel.
So in terms of the East Med gas, the point that brings Egypt in front of Turkey is that it's a more commercial option, I understand from what you said.
It's a commercial option in terms of, because you probably know that the future of gas is through LNG. There are not many pipelines being built anymore. That's why I said before, the East Med gas pipeline is a pipe dream, because pipelines are not being built anymore. Most of the gas trading is happening through LNG. And Egypt offers an option, offers the option for LNG. It already has two liquefaction plants. They are ready to expand those and build more. And as a result, Egypt can become a country where gas is liquefied for export, not, as I said, not just to Europe, but also all the way to Asia and to the rest of the world. Something which is very difficult for Turkey to compete with. So the LNG trading is giving Egypt an advantage in terms of East Med gas. Turkey has the advantage of pipelines from Iran, from Azerbaijan, from Russia into Europe. So the two things are different.
Thank you, Mr. Ellinas. It's been a very informative talk.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Today we discussed the energy-oriented discussions in the East Med region. Thank you for watching us.